assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Star Trek is rapidly approaching its 60th anniversary, and yet in recent years, the franchise hasn't felt as though it's connecting in the way that it once did. To many diehard fans, it felt like Paramount has been actively trying to kill Star Trek for quite some time. Frustrating reboots, poor character decisions, and the wrong people being hired has led to a cycle of fans feeling neglected, and the future of the franchise spinning out of control.
First time any man's freedom is trodden on. We're all damaged.
Since its creation in 1966, Star Trek has gone from being avant-garde morality play fiction to two-fisted pulp storytelling and back again. But the most recent era of the franchise has yielded some of the biggest franchise blunders in its entire history. And it all starts with one crucial decision that Paramount made. They hired Alex Kurtzman to oversee everything.
I'm excited about the opportunity to shift gears and to say, okay, what is the new television version of Trek?
Kurtzman was inked to a 5-year deal to showrun everything involving Star Trek, and they were going to use these new shows to anchor the launch of their burgeoning streaming service, CBS All Access, which would later rebrand to Paramount Plus. The goal was to produce a large quantity of product very quickly, because if they didn't, there would be no significant lure to entice people into subscribing to the previously mentioned streaming platform.
Starfleet needs good captains, particularly now.
The first show produced under Kurtzman's watch was Star Trek Discovery, running 5 seasons and chronicling the first new television adventures in the Star Trek universe in more than a decade. The show was met with mixed reception. The main issue is that behind-the-scenes conflicts deeply influenced the creative structure of the program. Originally, Discovery was going to be created by Brian Fuller of Pushing Daisies and Hannibal fame. Despite still receiving a credit in the opening titles, he was pushed out almost immediately. While some of his fingerprints still remain, Kurtzman and his creative compatriots decided that Fuller's version of Star Trek was just not something that they wanted to pursue. This caused much of the first season to have to be retooled mid-production.
You're gonna help us out?
No.
Excuse me?
No, thank you.
The show had glaring continuity problems. There were bizarre structural choices. It centered a character who was supposed to be raised by Vulcans and yet was emotional and cried once an episode. It was a frustrating viewing experience from the jump, and these issues were quickly compounding. Kurtzman's crew decided to retool things again for each subsequent season, desperately attempting to appeal to a fandom that's just not interested in what they're trying to sell.
Execute my plan without further challenge before we're dragged into war.
Starfleet doesn't fire first. That's all, number one. We have to.
The next major program that Kurtzman and crew rolled out was Star Trek Picard, the grand return of arguably the most popular character in the entire Star Trek universe. But here's the twist. Patrick Stewart didn't want to be shackled to an ensemble storytelling style. He wanted this program to specifically, exclusively focus on Captain Picard. And thus, most of the original crew was not brought back for more than a glorified cameo, which is a huge stumbling block and a massive hole in the middle of the program that was almost never creatively solved. The first season of the show is a fairly frustrating experience. Patrick Stewart just fundamentally does not understand who Jean-Luc Picard is. Pair that with Kurtzman and crew also not having a particularly strong perspective on the ideals of Gene Roddenberry's future, and you get moments like Raffi expressing her jealousy for Picard's family vineyard and financial wealth.
Yeah, I'd show you around my estate, but it's more of a hovel, so that would just be, humiliating.
This runs counter to everything that we've seen about the Star Trek future. Money doesn't exist, petty jealousy isn't supposed to be fostered, humanity has moved past these ideas.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
No money? You mean you don't get paid?
And yet, the version of this future that Kurtzman and crew are interested in interrogating just isn't that future. It's something much closer to our world than anything from the original series.
Don't tell me they don't use money in the 23rd century.
Well, we don't.
The final season of Picard is the closest thing to an actual send-off we'll probably get. The original TNG cast returns, everyone seems like they're having a great time, and the plot is serviceable enough to give you some really fun character moments.
I'm reluctant to ask you all to face this threat again.
We are the crew of the USS Enterprise. But more than that, we're your family.
After Picard, the next show Paramount greenlit took longtime Trek fans by surprise. Hardcore Trek enthusiasts aren't exactly known for having a sense of humor.
Get a life, will you, people?
However, Lower Decks showed that it is possible to mix great sci-fi with good comedy. The show opted to focus on the non-bridge crew members of a second-class ship of the Federation's armada.
No! Are you pretending to do a captain's log? We're all supposed to keep logs.
Okay, let me listen to it.
No, go away. Leave it alone.
I can't believe you're wasting your shore leave on this.
While the characters take a minute to grow into themselves, the show walks a delicate balance of making genuinely funny episodes while also not abandoning the high concept, moral dilemma thesis that the original series and TNG so thoroughly interrogated.
Did Janeway figure it out?
No, she just murdered him.
Well, there has to be more to it.
She isolated the genomes and split him up. He begged her to live.
Holy sh**. Janeway didn't mess around.
Despite ending after 5 seasons, this show felt like it could have gone on for another 5, which in the morass of the Kurtzman era, there is no higher compliment.
Shaka when the walls fell, Ensign. So Kath, his eyes uncovered. I pay attention.
The next show Paramount put into production was another animated show. However, this one had a much different tone and visual approach. Star Trek Prodigy was a program aimed specifically at kids. Despite featuring some cameos from well-known Trek characters like Janeway and later Spock and others, Prodigy was a great idea for a show that was never quite given the runway to reach its full potential though. The first season ran on Paramount Plus and then was dropped due to low numbers and picked up by Netflix. There were rumors of a 3rd season, but unfortunately, that's still not materialized.
We can't do the impossible.
Impossible? You have everything to solve this problem. If only you would solve it together.
The final 2 shows that have been produced under Kurtzman's watchful eye are the best that this era of Trek has produced, and maybe the worst. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is essentially a sequel and a prequel show. It stars the version of Spock, Pike, and Number 1 that were featured in Discovery Season 2, but also acts as a direct prequel to the original series Maiden: 5-Year Voyage. The show has the joy and moral dilemmas of the original series on display in full force. It also isn't afraid to be silly or campy, even going so far as to feature a musical episode. When the show is good, it's fantastic.
Exactly how far in the future do you hail from, Ensign?
Maybe 120 years, give or take.
Well, you don't look a day over 100.
Funny, Captain, what's happening?
The character work they give to Pike, Spock, and the other characters is great, but when it's bad though, well, it's really bad. This show introduces a new actor to portray Captain Kirk, and he's pretty terrible in this role.
Well, there's no scientific way to put it. All hell broke loose.
Speaking of terrible, the last Trek show put out under Paramount's desperate attempt to appeal to anyone with a pulse is Starfleet Academy.
That thing is taking us to the school?
That is the school.
Before we say anything negative, let's just be clear. This is a great idea for a show. A young adult romance and sci-fi show sounds amazing. Set at the Academy? Even better. This is exactly what a modern version of Trek could be. There's only one problem. This ain't it. The characters suck. The visuals are so glossy it's off-putting. And the core conceit of the show, of yet another wild card character who's reckless and doesn't want to play by the rules, is just so boring and trite it feels like it should be a commentary on the weird direction Trek has taken under Kurtzman. The show was greenlit for 2 seasons, and after low numbers and a pretty significant backlash against it, Paramount is ending it after that commitment is up.
All of those things are grounds for expulsion, and they're all true.
The final anomaly in this, admittedly, torrential downpour of Trek content is the movie Section 31. But honestly, the less said about it, the better. It was originally going to be a full series starring Michael Burnham's adoptive mother figure, Philippa Georgiou, who's played by Michelle Yeoh. The show is pretty much dead in the water, but when Yeoh won the Oscar, it reignited conversations about finishing out her story arc. The resulting movie is like a clip show episode that doesn't exist. And it amounts to little more than, hey, have you guys seen Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy? Want to watch us plug and play those movies with Star Trek-based nouns? The direction is so self-conscious, overly glossy, and trying to convince you at every turn that Star Trek isn't dorky. Everything about this era of Trek feels this way. The only one that feels vaguely Star Trek is Strange New Worlds because that's their throwback show. That's the one where they're actively trying to make it feel like the original series.
They are gone, beyond repair. We pushed her too hard. We're dead in the water.
There's a simple reason why this is all this way. Alex Kurtzman. Paramount took a risk that he was the reason the first Kelvin movie worked. There's only one problem. He wasn't. It was the combination of Abrams, Orci, and Kurtzman that made that project sing. Orci was a hardcore Trek fan, Kurtzman didn't like it, and Abrams was a Star Wars fan. And you can see all three of their DNA in why the movie works. It's just enough action to keep you engaged, just enough character to make things fun, and just enough of the original magic of Star Wars and Star Trek to really connect with a wider audience. Kurtzman might be a great overall godfather of a project, he just doesn't get what makes Star Trek work on a fundamental level, and that's why most of them have come up short. All of this exists because the original series was so good, so unique, so unlike anything else. But that's not what these shows are aspiring to. They're dead set on cheap flash, empty, vapid content that can be consumed and disposed of. Truly, what a final frontier it is.
Live long and prosper, Mr. Boimler.
You also live and...
And well, that's all we have for this episode. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos just like this.